it's the Tutor here. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the top 10 most played or most created mono blue commander cards, or just specifically commanders. Starting off with number 10, we're going to go into this right away. It's Azami, Lady of Scrolls. She is a 5-cost legendary creature, human wizard. Tap an untapped wizard you control to draw a card. So obviously there's going to be a lot of wizard decks. Let's just take a look here. So, as I mentioned before in my previous mono white video, which you guys should definitely take a look at, um, we are able to kind of make our own kind of deck using like average cards that the community has made. So as you guys see here, I have the average deck for any budget with wizards right here selected. And I believe there was about 4,100 decks created for this commander. So let's just take a look at kind of the creatures and all the cards you can typically see in this commander. Let's go to Archmage Demetrius, 4-cost creature, human wizard. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. Let's go to Archmage of Echoes, Flying Ward, fairy wizard. Whenever you cast a fairy or wizard permanent spell, copy it. Awesome. Fairy Seer, it's a 1-cost creature, fairy wizard. Flying, whenever Fairy Seer enters the battlefield, scry 2. So obviously you see a bunch of different kind of just wizards, just to go with along with the theme of the deck. Narumeha, Master Wizard. 4-cost legendary creature, human wizard. Flash, whenever it enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Other wizards you control gets +1/+1, which is very powerful in this deck, obviously. Being able to get +1/+1s on basically anything, especially like all the creatures in your deck, is going to be very powerful. So let's just take a look at some of the instants. Of course, we have our counter spells, which I'm sure will be in like most mono blue decks, but we'll see that in the future. Arcane Denial, 2-cost instant counter target spell. Its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. You draw a card at the beginning of your next turn's upkeep. So, Fierce Guardianship, if you control a commander, you may cast the spell without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. So I have just like counter spells. You have Dramatic Reversal, which will help with your commander. Untap all non-land permanents you control. So you can still, basically use the card effect to draw cards for the commander, and then also use Dramatic Reversal just to be able to untap them right away. High Tide, until end of turn, whenever a player taps an island for mana, that player adds an additional blue mana. Awesome. Reality Shift, 2-cost instant, exile target creature. Its controller manifests the top card of their library. Let's take a look at some of the sorceries quickly. We have Merchant Scroll, which really looks cool. I like the white kind of card. And sorcery, search your library for a blue instant card, reveal that card and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library, ponder, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order you may shuffle, draw a card. Let's just to solve the equation. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So let's take a look at some artifacts here. We have, of course, Arcane Signet. There's going to be Soul Ring, I'm sure. Sky Diamond. Sky Diamond enters the battlefield tapped. You can add blue. And then, of course, we have Sapphire Medallion, just like in the Mono White video, which had Pearl Medallion. We had Sapphire Medallion for blue, which I'm sure will be in basically every single Mono blue commander deck. There's your Soul Ring. So just some, additional mana draws. I mean, you have no maximum hand size. I have 1 mana of any color, so... Let's take a look at some enchantments. Choose and discard a card, tap or untap, target artifact, creature, or land. Mystic Remora, 1-cost, cumulative upkeep. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 4. Ristic Study. Telfari's Ageless Insight, 4-cost legendary enchantment. If you would draw a card, except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 instead, which pairs very well with this commander specifically. Then, of course, we have Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. If you would draw a card, if you draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. Target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into the graveyard, draw a card, draw 7 cards. If your library has no cards in it, you win the game. So obviously, card draw is a very powerful, look at the theme of this deck. So of course you're going to be seeing, a lot of card draws. And here are just some lands, and there's the basic land. So that is the number 10 commander. And coming in at number 9, we have Baral, Chief of Compliance, who is a 2-cost legendary creature, human wizard. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So I wonder what kind of decks we're going to see. With over 1,000 decks, of course, the number 1 most common deck you'll see for Baral as a commander is going to be counterspells. So let's take a look at the average deck here. Let's take a look at just some creatures. So we have Archmage of Runes, 5-cost creature, giant wizard. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, which you will be doing, draw a card. Next we have Gil. It is a 6-cost creature elemental incarnation. Gil can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. If a spell or ability you control would counter a spell, instead exile that spell, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. Whenever it is put into the graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into your owner's library. Next we have Murmuring Mystic. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue bird illusion creature token with flying, which makes sense. Let's take a look at just some instants here, which you will obviously be having, as it is a instant deck. Of course, most of them will be things like your counter spells, and let's just take a count here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's just 6 right off the bat, and there's some card draw here with Brainstorm. Another one, another one, another one, another one. So basically it's just trying to control the board, it looks like. Mana Drain, of course. Insidious Will, you can target or counter target spell. You may choose new targets for a target spell. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Negate, of course. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card into your library. Swan Song is a 1-cost counter target enchantment, instant or sorcery spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 blue bird creature token flying. Another counter spell, another counter spell, counter spell, counter spell. So basically just all counter spells. Sorceries, preordained 1-cost, scry 2, then draw a card. Solve the equation, 3-cost, search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Treasure Cruise, it's an 8-cost with Delve, draw 3 cards, ponder. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in anywhere you may shuffle, draw a card. And of course we have Sapphire Medallion here, it's a little bit cut off. Mind Splice Apparatus, at the beginning of your upkeep, put an oil counter on Mind Splice Apparatus. Instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each oil counter on Mind Splice, which makes sense. Then we have Sky Diamond, Soul Ring, of course. And here's some enchantments. We have Narset right here. So yeah, that is number 9. Let's move on to number 8. And coming in at number 8, we have Emery, Lurker of the Loch. She is a 3-cost legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard, affinity for artifacts, which means this spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. So I'm sure we're going to be looking at some artifact decks. When Emery enters, mill 4 cards. Choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. Awesome. So let's take a look at your artifacts. Obviously 2K. We have 4,909 decks, rating number 393 total of all commanders. So let's take a look at the average deck for Emery quickly. So we have Chakram Retriever, partner with Chakram Slinger. Whenever you cast a spell during your turn, untap target creature. Then we have Ethereum Sculptor. The artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Makes sense. It's an artifact deck, of course, so you're going to want to get those artifacts out for as cheap as possible. We have this. It's just a flying 0/2. We have Mirror Retriever. When Mirror Retriever dies, return other target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Myrian Spy, creature drone, flying. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may untap target creature. Riddlesmith, whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may draw a card. So obviously, you just have a lot of land draws too. Spell Skite, the 2-cost, change a target of target spell or ability to spell kite. Awesome. The Reality Ship, 2-cost, legendary artifact creature. The equipment, Jellyfish, that's a lot. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. As long as the Reality Ship is attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. And it has reconfigure for 2. Trophy Mage. When Trophy Mage enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 3 or less, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Let's go into some instance. Negate, of course. We have a bunch of very reoccurring cards. An offer you can't refuse. Counter target non-creature spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. Swan Song. Counter target enchantment, instant, or sorcery spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 blue bird creature token with flying, and it's just 1 cost. Then next we have Word of Indentation. It's a 4 cost. Improvise. Search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less. Put it into your battlefield and shuffle your library. So that's pretty fun. Let's take a look at some sorceries here. Search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield and shuffle your hand. Or shuffle your library. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Windfall 3. Of course, we have a bunch of different artifacts here, so let's just take a look at some of them. Of course, we're going to have some very common ones like Arcane Signet and then Conjurer's Bauble. Let's take a look at Aether Spellbomb. It's a 1 cost. You can sacrifice it to return target creature to its owner's hand. Sacrifice it, draw a card. It's a nice cheap card. Aether Flux Reservoir 4 cost. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you cast this turn. Pay 50 life. Aether Flux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player. So that's a win condition right there. You got to get a lot of life. So I'm sure there's some life artifacts in here. Let me see if I can find any. I'm not seeing any just off a quick glance, but that's okay. Sacrifice an artifact, add 2 colors to your mana pool. Then we have, Lightning Greaves, the Scepter again, Moonsilver Key. Sacrifice it, search your library for an artifact card with a mana ability or a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Awesome. Soul Ring, of course, that's cool artwork too. Tormod's Crypt, sacrifice Tormod's Crypt, exile target player's graveyard. Next we have just some enchantments. Secret of the Dead, let's just take a look at that. It's 3 cost. Whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. Awesome. Then we have Tezzeret the Seeker, 5 cost. Planeswalker, Tezzeret. Untap up to 2 target artifacts. Search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Artifact creatures you control become artifact creatures with base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn. So that's obviously very powerful in an artifact deck. Being able to get all of them for, 5/5 creatures. And this is a really cool one. See this Synod, artifact land, item 1. All right, so that was our number 8. And once again, that was Emery, Lurker of the Loch. On to number 7. Number 7, we have Min, Willy, Illusionist, who's a 3-cost legendary creature, gnome wizard. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with this creature gets +1/+0 for each other illusion you control. Whenever an illusion you control dies, you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to that creature's power from your hand onto the battlefield. So we're probably looking at illusions here. Actually, we're looking at wheels. Well, let's just take a look at this. All right. Well, give it 1 second to load. There we go. Let's look at some creatures. Archmage Demetrius, we've already read him before. Curiosity Crafter, flying. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever a creature token you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Let's look at the Sphinx right here. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. So, obviously, that'll be very powerful. I mean, in the Commander format, if you have multiple opponents. So they got to get rid of that quickly. Robikin Mist, creature illusion, flying. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of illusions on the battlefield. Nice. Next we have Nizal, Primal Tide. 7 cost, legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. This spell can't be countered. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, draw a card. Discard 3 cards, exile it, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So that's fun. Be able to use its effect multiple times. Let's look at Psychosis Crawler, who's a 5-cost artifact creature, Phyrexian Horror. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. Obviously, we're starting to see some synergy right now with card draw. Wander. It's a 4-cost flying. As long as this card is in your graveyard and you control an island, creatures you control have flying. That's a powerful effect. Let's take a look at some instants because there's 18 of them total. Behold the Multiverse. Yeah, it's scry 2, then draw 2 cards, and it has a foretell 2. Archmage is the Charm. It's a 3-cost instant. You can choose one. You can counter target spell. Target player draws 2 cards. Gain control of target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 1 or less. So we see Pongify. Let me know how to pronounce that down below. But obviously, this is something that's been seen in multiple decks. Rapid Hybridization. 1-cost instant. Destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. That creature's controller creates a 3/3 frog lizard creature token. Basically the same exact thing as this, but instead of an ape, it's a frog lizard. Spectral Deluge. Or Dulg, I'm not sure. Return each creature your opponent controls with toughness X or less to its owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. It has foretell 2. Artifacts, obviously Sapphire Medallion, Skull Clamp, we know what that does, but I'll read it before. Equipped creature gets +1/-1. Whenever a equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Mind Stone, you can draw a card or add a colorless. Swiftfoot Boots, we know what that does. Midnight Cloak. Put an hour counter on Midnight Cloak. At the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on Midnight Cloak. When it reaches 12-hour counter, shuffle your hand and engrave it into library, then draw 7 cards. And then you exile the card. Let's take a look at some enchantments. Kindred Discovery, it's a 5-cost. Enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. Nice, easy card draw. Mystic Study, of course. Proph's Adric Memory, 2-cost legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've drawn more than 1 card this turn, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn -1. Awesome. We have 2 different planeswalkers right here. I'll let you guys read those because those just take a lot to go through. All right, and so obviously we have the Lukely Tower over here. I know it cuts it off, but that's just no maximum hand size. So that pairs well with a lot of cards in the deck too. So here are some lands. All right. So once again, that was number 7, Min, Willy Illusionist. Look forward to number 6. On to number 6, bringing this to you guys like 2 weeks later. We have Talrand, Sky Summoner, who is a 4-cost legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. So, of course, we're going to be seeing a bunch of instants and sorceries in these decks. Let's take a look as to what is in the average deck. Spell Slinger. So right here we have, well, actually, yeah, I guess we could look at those. Haughty Jijin, love the name. Flying, this creature's power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So that's awesome, but obviously a must include inside this deck. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue blurred illusion creature token with flying. So basically a very similar effect to what we just saw. Archmage of Ruins, instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Makes sense. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card so you're able to generate card draw. Let's just take a look here at Archaeomancer, Human Wizard. Whenever it enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So that's very, very good too. Let's take a look at some of the instants. We have Aetherize over here, 4-cost, return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. Brainstorm, 1-cost, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. Of course, we have Counterspell here, Dispel, Disdain Stroke, counter target spell, mana value 4 or greater. Dig Through Time, it's an 8-cost, Delve. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Into the Royal, 2-cost, instant kicker, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If the spell was kicked, draw a card. Of course, we're seeing some of the same cards as like Pongify or Pongify, not sure how to pronounce it. Quick Study, 3-cost instant, draw 2 cards. Negate, counter target non-creature spell. So a lot of very similar cards from what we've seen before, but more in this deck than the others just because it is a spell slinger deck, because you're trying to get the commander's effect off as much as possible. Let's take a look at some of the sorceries. Gadaxian Probe. Look at the top players, our target player's hands, draw a card. Flood of Recollection. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand, exile it. Rise of the Tides, it's 6-cost sorcery. Create a tap 2/2 black zombie creature token for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Then you have Serum Visions, 1-cost, draw a card, scry 2. Some more card draw. And finally, you have Winged Words, 3-cost. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a creature with flying. Draw 2 cards. Let's take a quick look here. We have the Bidens right here. Of course, we have the Sapphire Medallion, a little bit cut off right here. Soul Rain, Sky Diamond, same old Soul Rain. Let's take a look at some enchantments. Favorable Winds. Creatures you control flying get +1/+1. Jace's Sanctum. Instant and sorcery spells you cast call 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, scry 1 so you can kind of, control what you're going to be getting, especially since you do have, looks like quite a few, options to draw cards. And then here are just some lands. All right. So that was number 6, I believe. Once again, that's Talrand Sky Summoner. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. On to number 5, we have Bruvok, the Grand Delinquent, 3-cost legendary creature, human advisor. If an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill twice that many cards instead. So I'm sure we're going to be finding a mill deck to make your opponents draw out. But let's just take a look here at the average deck. Well, we actually have 2 persistent petitioners, and we also have mill. Let's just take a look at the number 1 here. All right. So let's take a look at the creatures. As always, we have Dreamborn Muse, 4-cost creature spirit. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player puts the top X cards of their library into the graveyard, where X is the number of cards in their hand. So that's very powerful. I mean, let's just say they have 7 cards in their hand, they're milling 14 cards. And while the commander does have 100-card decks, I mean, milling 1/10 of your deck is very strong. Defiler of Dreams. As an additional cost to cast blue permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost 1 blue less to cast if you paid life this way. This effect reduces only the amount of blue mana you pay. Whenever you cast a blue permanent spell, draw a card. Let's go Fleet Swallower. That's a creature fish. Whenever Fleet Swallower attacks, target player puts the top half of his or her library rounded up into his or her graveyard. Lear or Liar, Disciple of the Drowned, 5-cost legendary creature, human wizard. Spells can't be countered. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost. So you're able to utilize your effect to your advantage and be able to use, cards in your graveyard, which would make sense for the deck because you're also not exempt from the effect, I believe. Actually, that's a lie. It just impacts the opponents. Painter Servant. As Painter Servant comes into play, choose a color. All cards that aren't in play, spells, and permanents are the chosen color in addition to their other colors. Ruin Crab, 1 cost. Landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards, aka 6 card. Of course, we have Roaming Throne right here. Silent Arbiter. No more than 1 creature can attack each combat, so a little bit of controlling the board. No more than 1 creature can block each combat. Let's take a look at some instants. Of course, we have the same old Brainstorm, Counterspell, Mystic Tutor. This one again, Visions of Beyond, draw a card if your graveyard has 20 or more cards, and then draw 3 cards instead. And that would count because if a graveyard, and that also includes your opponents. Mass Appeal, 3, draw a card for each human you control. Traumatize, 5-cost. Sorcery, target player puts the top half of his or her library rounded down into his or her graveyard. That's like almost an instant win right there. We have Mesmeric Orb. It's a 2-cost. Whenever permanent becomes untapped, that permanent controller mills a card. Um, so yeah, I mean that also includes lands. So of course that's really good. Mind Crank, 2 cost whenever an opponent loses life, that player mills that many cards. And then we have Water Crystal here from the new Final Fantasy set. Blue spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. If an opponent would mill one or more cards, they mill that many cards plus 4 instead, which would make a lot of sense. And here are some enchantments. Psychic Corrosion, or I'm just gonna skip pronouncing that. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into the graveyard. And then we have JC here again. Let's go with this land quickly. This land enters taking at 1, or it's a sorcery adventure. Target opponent mills half the library rendered down. So of course it also works too with the commander. All right. So once again, I believe that is number 5, Ruvok, the Grandiloquent. On to number 5, we have a card that I hold very dear to me, the Mind Skinner. So just a little bit of background. The first pre-release event I actually went to was Duskmoor, and when you have the kind of pre-release kit, you get a promo card, and the Mind Skinner was actually my promo card. So I'm happy to see him so represented. I mean, so high up, number 3 overall. Legendary enchantment creature, Nightmare. The Mind Skin can't be blocked. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, and each opponent mills that many cards. So once again, we're going to be seeing a bunch of mills. This one's specifically a mill deck. We're going to be seeing a lot of the same cards. I mean, we have Ruvok right here, Dreamborn Mists. I mean, same old, same old. So this might be just a quick one. Jace's Phantom. Jace's Phantom gets +4/+4 for as long as an opponent has 10 or more cards in his or her graveyard. So of course they're going to. Um, Undead Alchemist, 4 cost of a zombie you control would deal combat damage to a player. Instead, that player mills that many cards. Whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from their library, exile that card and create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Let's go to the instants and sorceries. Drown in Dreams. Choose one if you control a commander. As you cast a spell, you may choose both. Target player draws X cards. Target player mills twice X cards. So yeah, we'll just kind of go by these quickly. Cut your losses, 6 cost, causality, and then target player mills half the library rounded down. Traumatize, 5 costs. Target puts the top half of his or her library rounded down into his or her graveyard. Bone Horde, it's a 4 cost artifact equipment, living weapon. Equipped creature gets +X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. So that's going to be very strong considering, you're milling all those cards with, your opponents. Of course, we have Mesmeric Orb again. We have good, very common cards like Lightning Greaves and Sapphire Medallion over here. Seems like this had a little bit more artifacts in the deck than the other one. Leyline Axe, 4 cost. If this card is in your opponent opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike and trample. Sword of Animist, 2 cost. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever equipped creature attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tapped and shuffle. So a little bit of landfall right there. Looks like there's nothing really to talk about. Drowned Secrets. Whenever you cast a blue spell, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. We have Jace once again. We have Jador again. I mean, same old, same old. All right. So once again, that is going to be your Mind Skinner deck with over 1,870 decks, ranked number 218 total. Actually, that is a lie. Let's just that they have way more than just that. Let me just get that back for you. 7,252 decks total. So yeah, there's quite a lot more than just 1,800. All right, so I'll see you guys for number 3. On to number 3, we have Luge, the Shoreless Sea. Let me know if you guys got that right down in the comments below. We have a 4 cost legendary creature, Elemental Fish. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of islands you control. Whenever it enters or attacks, put a flood counter on target land. It's an island in addition to its other types for as long as it has a flood counter on it. The first instant or sorcery spell you cast each turn costs one colorless or one blue less to cast for each land you control with a flood counter on it. So of course we're going to be looking for a landfall deck, it looks like, or I guess spell slinger. Always proved me wrong. Let's take a look at some creatures, some very similar cards. Um, I don't think we've seen this one yet. Hydroelectric Specimen, 3-cost creature. Weird. It's a weird creature. Flash, whenever it enters the battlefield, you may choose the target of target instant or sorcery spell with a single target to species, and then as Hydroelectric Liberty enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. That's kind of cool. The best card in the entire game. The Flood of Mars, 4-cost creature, alien, zombie, horror, island walk. Whenever the Flood of Mars attacks, put a flood counter on another target creature or land. If it's a creature, it becomes a copy of the Flood of Mars. If it's a land, it becomes an island in addition to its other types. Of course, we also have Talrand, Sky Summoner here, and we have Wave Break, Clipchamp again. An offer you can't refuse, counter target, 9-creature spell, so a bunch of just counter spells. It looks like Flow of Knowledge, 5-cost, draw a card for each island you control, which you should have quite a lot of, then discard 2 cards. Planar Incision, exile target artifact or creature, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Pull from Tomorrow, draw X card, then discard a card. Sink into Stupor, return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Then, as it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. Curse of the Swine. Exile X target creature. For each creature exiled this way, its controller creates a 2/2 green board creature token. So that's very powerful, just board control card right there. Spectral Dulge. It is a 6-cost sorcery. Return each creature your opponent controls with toughness X or less to its owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. Then, of course, we have Time Warp right there. Don't really need to go into artifacts because it doesn't seem like there are many. Let's look at some enchantments. Of course, we have Ristic Study, Shark Typhoon, 6-cost, awesome artwork. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying, where X is that spell's mana value. Then we have Metallurgic Summonings, 5-cost. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create XX colorless construct artifact creature token, where X is the spell's mana value. And then we just have some lands here. All right. So that was our number 3. Let me know what you guys think about this deck. This seems kind of like my play style. I love just being able to get the islands out there and being able just to control the board. So let's move on to number 2. Put down in the comments below what you think it is. And on to number 2, we have Orvar, the All Form. Legendary creature, shapeshifter, changeling. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it targets one or more other permanents you control, create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. When a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard this card, create a token that's a copy of target permanent. So, and there's 8,241 decks. Average cantrips. And of course, if you want like clones or a spell slinger, you're more than welcome to click these too. All right, so we're looking at the same old cards, it looks like. Master of Waves, I'm not sure if we've seen that one, but it is a 4-cost creature, Merfolk Wizard, protection from red. Elemental creatures you control get +1/+1. When Master of Waves enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/0 blue elemental creature tokens equal to your devotion to blue. Next, we have Shipwreck Dowser. It's a 5-cost creature, Merfolk Wizard. With prowess, whenever this creature enters, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Starfield Vocalist. I think this might be from the newest set. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. It has warp as well. We have Spell Seeker right here, 3 costs. Whenever Spell Seeker enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an instant or sorcery card with mana value 2 or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Then we have Cerulean Wisps. It's a 1 cost instant. Target creature becomes blue until end of turn. Untap that creature, draw a card. We have 28 instances, so that's quite a lot. Dream's Grip, 1 cost, choose 1. Tap target artifact, tap target permanent, or untap target permanent. Dive Down, 1 cost. Target creature you control gains +0/+3 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Ghostly Flicker, 3 costs, instant. Exile 2 target artifact creatures and/or lands you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under your control. Nice. Shimmering Mirage, 2 cost, instant. Target land type becomes the basic land type of your choice until end of turn. Twisted Image, 1 cost, instant. Switch target creature's power and toughness until end of turn, draw a card. Then we have Twiddle, 1 cost, tap or untap or target artifact creature or land. Let's take a look at some sorceries here. Energy Tap, 1 cost, tap target creature you control, add an amount of colorless mana equal to that creature's casting cost to your mana pool. Aquatex Will, 1 cost, put a flood counter on target land. That land is an island in addition to its other types for as long as it has flood counter on it. If you control more folk, draw a card. Looks like we have a couple of jewels here, and then this, of course, Fellware Stone. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, add 3 mana of any color. Whenever add you 1 color, whenever 1 or more creatures an opponent controls attacks, whenever 1 or more creatures an opponent controls attack you and aren't blocked, that creature draws 3 cards and gains control of coveted jewel, then you can untap it. Idol of Oblivion, Sapphire Medallion, Thought Vessel, Soul Rain, same old cards. So, let's take a look at Cloud Post and Glimmer Post. These are fun cards because they're locusts. Cloud Pool comes into play tapped. Add 1 to your mana pool for each locust in play, and then you can add 1 to your mana pool. And then this one you gain life. All right, so that was all of the cards for the average deck for Orvar the Allthorn. So now we're on to number 1. All right, and we're finally on to number 1. If you said Urza, Lord High Artificer, card, you're correct. Good job. Now, feel free to comment how many decks you think there are. Just take a guess off the top of your head. It's a 4 cost, legendary creature, Human Artificer. When it enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Tap an untapped artifact you control to add blue. You can spend 5 colorless to shuffle your library, then exile a top card. Until into play, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. So take a guess. Over 15,500 decks. Now, as you guys can probably imagine, most of those are going to be artifacts, and I believe that's like almost twice as much as number 2. But let's take a look at the average deck, and of course artifacts with over 5k decks. Looks like I'm having some technical difficulties here. There you go. All right. Sorry if you can hear my dog drinking in the background. Earthos Titanic God Core. This land enters tapped. Actually, didn't go to the average deck. There we go. All right, so we have Emery, of course, here. God Geeter, 3 costs. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, investigate. Activate abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to cast to activate. Makes sense in an artifact deck. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana. Liberator, Urza's Battlethropter. May cast colorless spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. Whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of the mana spent to cast that spell is greater than Liberator, Urza's Battlethropter's power, put a +1/+1 counter on Liberator. Sai Master Thropterist, 3 costs. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thropter artifact creature token with flying. Seems like there's a lot of Thropters here. Got Spell Sky, Phyrexian Horror, the Reality Chip, Thought Monitor, Tribute Mage, so some similar ones to what we've seen before. I don't think we've seen Veld Elkin Archmage 4 cost. Whenever you cast an artifact, spell, draw a card. Let's take a look at some instants. So a lot of obviously counter spells and card draw. Force of Will. You may pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Target counter spell. If you use Guardianship, it's a 3 cost instant. If you control a commander, you may cast that spell without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. Then we have Negate, Swan Spell, Word of Invitation, so on and so forth. Let's take a look at some sorceries. Thoughtcast, 5 cost affinity for artifacts, which means this spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control to draw 2 cards, which you'll probably be able to spend just 1 or maybe 2 mana to get this card depending on how fast you get it in Commander. Now let's take a look at the bread and butter of this deck, which are your artifacts. Of course, we have artifacts like Arcane Signet, and we'll have, I'm sure we'll see, Sapphire Medallion and Soul Rain, but for now, Everlasting Chalice, 0 cost, multi-kicker. This artifact enters with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked. Add colorless for each charge counter on this artifact. Manifold Key, 1 cost, untap another target artifact. Target creature can't be blocked this turn, so that's powerful too. Mox Opal, add 1 mana of any color, activate this ability only if you control 3 or more artifacts. Of course, you'll be able to use it. Very expensive card though. Spellbook. So a lot of just, cards you normally see. The One Ring over here, Cut Off. Tormod's Crypt, of course. Thought Vessel, something we've been seeing so much. Winter Orb, this looks really cool. As long as Winter Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 1 land during the untap step. That's kind of annoying. Don't play that card. Welding Jar, 0 cost. Sacrifice Welding Jar, regenerate target artifact. And then we have some enchantments here and Planeswalkers. I don't think we've seen Narset yet. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature landline card from among them and put them into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. Then we have just, some lands here and some basics. All right. So that there was number 1. That is all of your mono blue decks here. Be on the lookout for mono black decks. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, I hope that you guys, my students, have a good rest of your day. Bye now.